In relationships, there's a moment many people recognize, even if they've never had language for it. It's the moment when closeness is right there, and instead of opening, the body freezes. You want to open, you want to stay present, you want to lean in, and instead, something in the body locks up. You go quiet, you pull back, you disconnect, disassociate, sometimes emotionally, sometimes physically, sometimes both. So today I want to talk about why this happens and why freezing doesn't mean that you don't want intimacy. Often it means just the opposite. Hey, I'm Kristen. Welcome to my space in the good, where we have grounded conversations around our deepest relationships and how our bodies respond to it. So let's dive in. We tend to think of freezing as a problem, as something is going wrong, as something is wrong with us. But from a nervous system perspective, freeze is a protective response. It's what happens when the body senses intensity and overwhelm and doesn't know how to move forward or back. So it pauses. It's just a pause. And this can happen during emotional closeness, during difficult conversations, during moments of physical or sexual intimacy. So freezing isn't a lack of desire. Repeat, freezing isn't a lack of your desire. It's often a lack of feeling safety in the body. So the question isn't, why am I like this? It's, what is it in this moment that doesn't feel safe yet? Freeze doesn't always look dramatic. The big show. It can be very subtle. It can be very nuanced. Requires deep listening to ourselves and our bodies. It can feel like your mind's going blank, your breath becoming shallow, a sudden numbness or feeling of disassociation, losing words, or feeling far away inside your own body, like you're kind of floating up here in the sky while your body's in the ground. And from the outside, it can look like disinterest, but internally the system is overwhelmed. Your body is saying this is too much, too fast, too unfamiliar, and it's choosing stillness as protection. And you should always listen to yourself and your body. Every response that you have your body has is correct. So simply know that you are never wrong, and it's okay to be exactly as you are. Intimacy, emotional or physical, requires presence. It asks us to be seen, felt, impacted. For people who learned early on that closeness came with emotional unpredictability, pressure, loss of autonomy, or responsibility for others' feelings, the nervous system may associate intimacy with danger. So even when the desire for closeness is real, the body remembers something else. It has a different story around what intimacy is attached to. And when closeness deepens, the freeze steps in. Not to sabotage connection, but to keep the system from being overwhelmed. Here are some things I've noticed both in myself and others around intimacy and feeling safe. Moments where connection feels present and alive, and then suddenly something tightens, the energy shifts, the body pulls inward. Nothing bad per se has happened, but the nervous system has crossed an internal threshold. And when you learn to recognize freeze, you can stop interpreting it as rejection. Being rejected by others or rejecting yourself in the moment, you start seeing it simply as information. I'll share a story with you. I was connecting with this guy last year, and there was definitely an emotional connection, a lot of chemistry going on, and I wanted to absolutely be physically intimate with this person. But the way that things were kind of unfolding forward, there was something about it that just made me hold back. And I was just noticing it. And part of it was there was a little bit of the love bomb thing going on where I would get all these fantastic texts and then nothing. And then all these fantastic texts and then nothing. Um, or he would sometimes take over a week to respond to a text that I had sent out, or I would say, "Hey, can we talk on the phone?" And I wouldn't get any kind of response. And it was a little bit different than when things were first starting to kind of heat up between us. Like things were kind of going the way things normally go, where you're seeing someone, and then the moment things started getting a little bit more, I would say, more emotionally connected, is when this started to happen. And although he would have liked the physical intimacy to really kind of happen fast right away, because of this sort of push and pull and this lack of response and this sort of like everything and then nothing, it just it didn't feel safe to me. I was losing my attraction to the person. I also was wanting to create an environment around physical intimacy where there would be plenty of time and space before, during, and after the physical intimacy, which I think is not a lot to ask for. It's pretty standard. And he wasn't wanting to create that environment. Again, it was about getting in fast, having everything be too fast and loose. And that's not how I was feeling with this person. Now, of course, some of you are listening to this and you're like, "Oh, I would have been fine with all of that." And that's perfectly fine. I think that's the point, is to understand what feels safe to you, to be clear about what makes you feel safe, to expose yourself and be vulnerable with someone on an emotional and physical level as you move forward. And another thing that's important to really recognize is that it's going to be different with different people. So, how you felt with one person and how an interaction went, it could be flowing in the same way, technically, with a different person, but it somehow doesn't feel right. And that's your body giving you information. That is wisdom of the body coming up and telling you something, and it's not to be ignored. Another point that I really would like to make is that things can change. And what felt good to you several years back, or as a teenager, or in your 20s or your 30s, or it might feel different than what you want now. So it's like there can be a moment where it's, wow, it used to be okay with this to have this kind of connection and to really kind of just dive in, with the intimacy, the physical intimacy. And now, with all how you've changed, how you evolved, your life lessons, what you've been through in other relationships, maybe things that felt perfectly fine in the past don't feel good now. And what's important is to really be honest and radically truthful with yourself about what makes you feel safe now. Here's another one for you. When someone freezes, often the other person tries to fix the moment, perhaps you, perhaps them. There can be an attempt to reassure, to push gently forward, explain, perform safety. But freeze doesn't resolve through persuasion. It resolves through regulation, through slowing down, through the power of choice, through the body feeling it has options again. More intensity doesn't melt freeze. Presence does. And it's worth asking in moments like this, am I trying to create safety? Or am I trying to relieve my own discomfort? Now, freeze is not the same as avoidance. Avoidance is a movement away. Freeze is immobility. It's protection. Someone who freezes may still want connection deeply. They just don't yet have the capacity to stay present with it. So understanding this doesn't mean ignoring your needs or putting up with something that doesn't feel good to you. It means you stop personalizing something that was never about lack of care from the other person. So, for example, that guy I was just talking about, he just completely ghosted me. He wasn't getting what he wanted. So instead of just saying that, even sending a text, not that adults in this day and age should be able to at least get on the phone and talk with each other, but some kind of a note or a phone call around, I don't think we're on the same page. I'm not really looking for a relationship right now. I just want to have fun. I don't want to be committed to anything. Or even, getting even more deeper around it and saying, I went through a divorce, not that long ago. And, I'm not really feeling good about relationship right now. It's too much for me, right? Like that is, a very vulnerable place to be. And it's not even a vulnerable place just to be with the person that you're saying it to. It's a vulnerable place to be with yourself, to actually speak those words out loud and have them witnessed, right? Because you don't know how the other person is going to respond. Me personally, if I would have had any of those kinds of conversations, I would have said, okay, everybody should have what they want, no problem, good luck. Somebody could have a response that's not so good. And, instead of being able to handle whatever might come up on the other side, like if I would have been like, screw you, or you're just a man baby, and, you used me, right? It's to avoid even the consequences of your own personal truth, right? Because there's nothing wrong with the personal truth that the guy wanted what he wanted. It simply wasn't in alignment with me. And it felt very personal to just be completely ghosted by someone that I did have the beginnings of an emotional connection with. So you see, I had to kind of wind into that place of it's really about him and what his capacity was to even admit to himself where he is around relationships and where he is in his life, right? So it wasn't like he was being mean to me on purpose, even though the actions weren't really kind. It was more about him avoiding. And that's more of that avoidance kind of a thing, as opposed to in the example, I couldn't get intimate with him physically because I was completely shutting down because of how the communications were going. Safety isn't convincing yourself everything is okay. Safety feels like breath returning to the body with ease, muscles softening, the jaw unclenching, a sense of choice, time slowing down, sovereignty. When safety is present, the body doesn't need to freeze. And this is why intimacy deepens when regulation is mutual. Not perfect, but responsive. Reciprocity. When two nervous systems can co-regulate in a healthy attachment style. That's with ease and peace and generosity and fun and curiosity and passion. And that's what we're looking for and what we're leaning into as we discover ourselves and tune into our past experiences and our present and where we are and where we're going. So if you recognize freeze in yourself or someone else, the question isn't what's wrong. It's this: what does my body need in order to feel safe enough to stay? What does my body need to feel safe enough to stay? Freezing doesn't mean you don't want to be open. Often it means you very much want to, and your nervous system just needs more support to get there. So pause, breathe, be with yourself, love yourself, take care of yourself. Thank you so much for being here. If you'd like to go deeper, I also host live meditation and journaling. There's spaces, I call them little journeys. They're nervous system resets and a time to reconnect with your inner wisdom and intuition. I would love to see you there and connect with you more in person here online. So please feel free to hit the subscribe button, and you will always be notified when these conversations come up or when any of those live meditation and journaling sessions are going on. And please don't forget to hit the like button. It would mean the world to me. It helps get these messages out there. And if you have found it supportive, please help me to get the messages out so that other people can find them. Support who need them can get the support as well. All right. I will see you next time. Bye.